The emergency lighting flickered in dull violet pulses, casting long, shifting shadows down the corridors of the SS Varelis. The sirens had already gone silent, but the aftermath still lingered in the thick tension. Crew were being shuffled to their departments, a handful sent to medical. Among them walked Daniel Reese, upright but pale, his left sleeve soaked through with dark red. "I told you I'm fine," he muttered, half to himself, half to the reptilian crew member escorting him. The cut on his arm was shallow, but it had bled a lot, and now his head throbbed faintly. Maybe some blood loss, or maybe the nerves were catching up. The escort, a Zalari technician who said nothing but kept a gentle hand on his back, guided him through a hexagonal doorway into the medical bay. Alien clinics always felt like the future, and a dentist's office had a weird child. Walls shimmered faintly with bioluminescent threads, diagnostic interfaces hovered mid-air, and the air smelled oddly sterile but also like crushed leaves. A towering, four-limbed figure floated forward on sleek, motorized appendages. This was the attending physician. "Human Daniel Reese," it intoned, voice translated smoothly by the ship's lexicoder. "You will sit for evaluation." He eased himself down onto the diagnostic couch. "Sure, Doc, just a scratch." The physician, Dr. Ajkor, leaned in. Its large central eye blinked slowly while the other three smaller ones flitted across his body. One manipulator arm swept a scanning wand over his torso while another delicately peeled back the torn fabric of his sleeve. The bleeding had slowed, but the gash was still open. "You exhibit mild pallor, likely hypotension from blood loss, heart rate elevated. Wound depth is superficial but linear and clean, no sign of foreign material. Local anesthetic and closure required." It concluded with clinical clarity. Daniel nodded. "Sounds good. Been through worse." Azkor reached for a small cylindrical injector. "You will feel brief pressure." Daniel gritted his teeth as the numbing agent entered just beneath the skin. The alien physician tilted its head, slowly, then paused. The injector pulled back slightly. Azkor leaned in. The central eye narrowed. "Query," the doctor said slowly. "Why does your blood emit the olfactory signature of refined ferrometal?" Daniel blinked. "Come again?" Oscor's head twitched slightly. "The scent. Your blood. It registers as ferromagnetic particulate, a metallic compound, unfiltered, toxic." Daniel let out a breathy chuckle, still a bit lightheaded. "Ah, that's just the iron." Oscor froze. "Iron," it repeated, the lexicoder's translation seemingly wary. Daniel lifted his arm slightly. "Yeah, human blood's got hemoglobin iron-based. It's how we transport oxygen." Silence. Azakor's four limbs retracted momentarily. It turned to the wall and activated several floating panels in rapid succession. Symbols alien to Daniel lit up in aggressive orange hues. "Doctor?" he asked, suddenly more alert. "Remain still," Azkor ordered. Initiating full biochemical screen. Potential heavy metal toxicity. Alert values exceeded for iron concentration. Possible systemic failure. Immediate detoxification protocol required. Daniel sat upright. "Whoa, hold on. You think I'm poisoned?" "Your circulating iron values exceed lethal parameters for 13 oxygen-breathing species aboard this vessel." "For them, maybe," Daniel said, "but we need iron. We're built around it." Azkor stopped again, its limbs twitching slightly. "Clarify. Require heavy metal exposure to sustain oxygen transport?" "Yeah, you could say our red cells are iron trucks hauling oxygen down the freeway." Azkor tilted its head again, confused. "Your colloquialisms do not assist comprehension." Daniel sat back again, wincing slightly. "Point is, we're supposed to have iron in us." A pause. Then the physician turned, activated a secure terminal, and drew blood manually from Daniel's uninjured arm. The sample was deposited into a sealed analyzer. Several moments passed. Azkor murmured quietly to itself something untranslated. Its eye patterns flickered, readouts blinked on screen, and a loud chirp sounded. Daniel asked, "Problem?" "No," Azkor said slowly. "No malfunction. Blood composition confirmed. Hemoglobin complex iron coordinated. Trace copper, zinc, manganese, All metals. Yep, we've got a whole periodic table in here, Daniel said, waving a hand at his torso. Additional metals, Ascor said, its voice now distinctly uneasy. Why? Daniel gave a half shrug. Trace minerals for enzyme function. Bones are mineral too. Calcium phosphate, hydroxyapatite. It's kind of our thing. Ascor stiffened. Repeat. I said our bones are mostly calcium and phosphate, like chalk and stone, but way denser. Ascor stared. You have a mineralized endoskeleton? Daniel gave a thumbs up. Like reinforced scaffolding. You walk unsupported, with internal structural mineralization, surrounded by soft flesh. Well, yeah, the outside's squishy. The inside's another story. The physician retreated half a pace, antennae curling slightly. That is not compatible with our known models of soft-bodied vertebrates. Daniel smirked, but his voice was tired. Welcome to humanity. We're full of surprises. The blood analyzer chirped again. Ascor leaned closer, then gasped. A display showed toxic warning levels in red adjusted per standard galactic species tolerances. Then it blinked. Human normal thresholds confirmed. No intervention required. The physician deactivated the detoxification protocol, trembling. I nearly initiated a chelation cycle. That would have disrupted your hemoglobin integrity. Daniel nodded slowly. Glad we talked first. Another manipulator activated a full-body scanner. I require full internal imaging. You will not be harmed. Knock yourself out. The scanner bathed him in soft blue light, translating into a skeletal overlay. The alien's central eye widened as the display emerged. Bone density unmatched among quadrupeds. Structural resilience exceeds even lyritic warforms by mass ratio. Microfracture resistance regenerative processes evident. This cannot be accidental. Daniel chuckled. We break stuff all the time. Bones heal in about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on severity. You regenerate stone, Ascor said, breathless. Well, sort of. Takes time. Lots of rest, sometimes surgery. But yeah, it grows back. Another alien technician entered smaller, with translucent skin. It spoke rapidly in their native tongue, then pointed to the blood readouts. Heavy metals, it said in accented galactic standard. That is biological? Yes, Ascor replied. And skeletal mineralization is not exogenous, it is endogenous, developed through evolutionary necessity. The technician reeled. But they are soft. Not inside, Ascor murmured. Inside, they are stone-laced survivors. Daniel slowly leaned back, suddenly aware of how utterly alien he was here. The physician turned toward him. You are injured. You lose blood. Your tissues are exposed to contaminants. You walk unassisted despite gravitational variance. And your internal composition includes iron, calcium, and phosphate crystals? More or less. There was a pause. Then Ascor reached toward its console and tapped a glowing glyph. A small alert formed on the Galactic Medical Network. Update. Human biology. Category revised. Subject contains hazardous endogenous metal concentrations. Further research mandatory. Potentially adaptive. Possibly weaponized. Daniel sighed as the wound was finally dressed with alien medical foam, all this for a cut. Ascor didn't reply. It was still staring at the scan, whispering, You carry stone and metal in soft skin. Ascor adjusted the ambient pressure in the medbay, not for Daniel's benefit, but to steady its own trembling sensors. It had practiced xenomedical protocols for 37 planetary cycles, with patient data ranging from chlorophyll-based organisms to silicon-based cognitive colonies. Never once had it encountered a soft-bodied biped who calmly declared that he was built with iron and healed broken stone inside his flesh. Daniel, meanwhile, sat up slowly on the diagnostic couch, sipping the rehydration fluid he'd been given. It tasted like chalky mint, which he figured was probably the universal flavor for, this won't kill you but don't enjoy it. His wound was sealed, though the loss of blood still made his head spin slightly. Nothing he hadn't dealt with before. He'd once dislocated a shoulder while rock climbing and hiked 3 hours with it dangling like a noodle. He'd had worse. But that didn't mean this wasn't serious. Ascor spoke again, its tone clipped but curious. Describe the formation process of your mineral endoskeleton. Daniel blinked. We're born with cartilage. Soft stuff. As we grow, it ossifies, turns into bone. Calcium, phosphorus, vitamin D, all that jazz. You don't eat right, you get brittle. The assistant technician stared. You must consume rocks? No. Dairy, leafy greens, meat, supplements. If you're short on sunshine, the calcium's in there. Azkor tapped the console furiously, drawing up archived footage of human biomechanical structures. So you extract essential construction materials from ingested organics. That would suggest an advanced filtration and allocation system. Our kidneys and bones handle most of it, Daniel said, rubbing his temples. You store what you need, excrete the rest. It's basic bio 101. For your species, Azkor muttered. The smaller technician stepped forward and carefully extended a scanning probe, tapping it against Daniel's upper arm. You claim these bones recover from damage? Yeah, not instantly. Depends on the break. Clean fractures heal in 6 weeks. Compound ones take longer, and sometimes we need screws or plates. Azkor turned sharply. You insert metal? Daniel nodded. Titanium's the go-to. Doesn't corrode. My buddy Connor's got a plate in his leg. Snowboarding accident. Still runs marathons. The technician staggered back half a step, eyes wide. You are mechanically enhanced after trauma? It asked, horrified. Temporarily, Daniel said. Sometimes permanently. Depends on the damage. Doctors patch us with metal, plastic, even bone grafts if they need to. It's better than losing a limb. Azkor activated another set of data panels. It pulled up heavy metal toxicity thresholds for known oxygen-based species aboard the SS Forellis. Then, beside it, it plotted Daniel's live values. The contrast was staggering. Had I proceeded with detoxification, Azkor murmured, your hemoglobin would have collapsed. Neural oxygen deprivation in 3 minutes. Complete systemic failure in under 10. Daniel exhaled slowly. Close call. No, Azkor replied. This was a failure in universal protocol design. No allowances were made for species utilizing metalloproteins internally. Daniel blinked. You mean no one else uses iron? Copper is the closest analog, Azkor replied. Hemocyanin, pale blue blood, but it is fragile, cold-active, vulnerable to oxidative stress. We're the opposite, Daniel said, chuckling. We run hot, high oxygen demand, warm-blooded and full of iron, keeps us going. The technician, still struggling to reconcile the findings, brought over a comparison model. It displayed the internal support structures of several humanoid species, gelatinous frameworks, protein lattices, pressurized hydrovascular cylinders. Then it overlaid Daniel's skeletal scan. Azkor whispered, You survive blunt trauma that would rupture other species outright. Sometimes, Daniel said. Not always. We're not unbreakable, just hard to kill if you give us a fighting chance. A warning ping drew their attention. A security alert, someone had flagged Daniel's blood sample as biologically hostile. Azkor shut it down. Incorrect label. Human biology is not hostile. It is incompatible with current medical assumptions. Daniel chuckled weakly. You sure about that? I've seen our immune system do some pretty hostile things. Azkor's eyes rotated slowly. You mean like fever? No, Daniel said. I mean, we sometimes reject our own organs if they don't match perfectly. Transplant rejection. We've had to invent whole drugs to suppress our immune system. The technician dropped its stylus. You must suppress your own defense system to survive a life-saving procedure? It asked, incredulous. Yup, Daniel said. Otherwise it'll nuke the new kidney or liver like it's an invader. Azkor's limbs twitched again. You are a biological paradox. Daniel smiled faintly. You're not the first to say that. The physician turned back to the console and began composing an update for the Galactic Medical Registry. As it typed, it spoke aloud. Subject: Human, Earth origin. Medical evaluation reveals extensive internal mineral content. Hemoglobin structure incorporates ferromagnetic iron. Skeletal framework composed of calcium phosphate matrix with hydroxyapatite crystallization. Organism maintains homeostasis, despite concentrations that would induce fatal reactions in 92% of oxygen-based species currently cataloged. The technician added quietly, "They walk around like that, carrying metal, encased in living stone." "They do," Oscorp agreed. "And they repair themselves when broken." Daniel drained the last of the chalky drink and leaned back against the cool support of the med couch. His muscles were sore now, and the blood loss had caught up. He was still slightly pale. "Do you require nutritional supplementation?" Oscorp asked. "I could use some electrolytes and sugar, maybe some iron." The technician flinched. "I was kidding," Daniel added, but Oscorp tapped out a mild nutrient blend formula and synthesized it. "For you," it said, handing over a dark blue gel packet, "this is considered safe." Daniel tasted it. It was earthy, not good, but not horrible. Oscorp resumed scanning, this time calibrating the medical database with Daniel's baseline readings. "We will need a full metabolic profile and endocrine logs. Your adrenal response is erratic compared to baseline." Daniel shrugged. "We get stressed easy. It's part of how we survive. Fight or flight. Your biology is designed to anticipate death." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Evolution's a rough teacher." Oscorp paused. "Do you suffer from this design?" Daniel looked up. "Sometimes. Pain's part of the system. But it also tells us when something's wrong. That's how we know to fix it." The technician looked to Oscorp. "What of their reproductive biology?" "Don't ask," Daniel said quickly. "Just don't." Oscorp raised a calming appendage. "That will not be necessary. This examination is limited to trauma assessment and metabolic function." Daniel stretched out again. "Glad to hear it." Outside the medbay's transparent panels, the stars continued to shimmer past, and somewhere down the corridor, another crewman's footsteps echoed faintly. Life aboard the Varellus would resume its rhythm soon. But inside, the physician stared at the scan once more. Internalized stone and metal regenerative scaffolds, immune systems aggressive enough to destroy life-saving organs. It tapped a final command. "Flag. Species of concern. Human physiology displays advanced internal mineralization and iron-based circulatory proteins. Hostile to standard detox and treatment protocols. Classification. Anomalous vertebrate." Oscorp turned back to Daniel. "Tomorrow," it said, "we will test your bone tensile strength." Daniel groaned. "Can't wait." The medbay was quieter the next day. Cooler, too. Daniel noticed that when he returned escorted, this time, by a much more cautious Zalari who maintained a respectful distance, like he was walking a volatile artifact to containment. Not that Daniel blamed him. Word had clearly spread. He was still a little pale, but steadier. The medical gel had done its job, and he'd had a long rest. Now, Oscorp wanted to measure his bones. Not figuratively, literally. The diagnostic table was now equipped with a high-frequency structural resonance scanner, something Daniel had never seen before. It looked like an oversized MRI crossed with a musical instrument, with delicate strands of something like silver wire vibrating slightly across its arch. Oscorp was ready. "This device will map the density, flexural modulus, and failure thresholds of your skeletal material without causing trauma. You will remain still." Daniel climbed onto the platform with a grunt. "Just lie here? Like a CT scan?" "Similar," Oscorp said, "but calibrated for mineralized structures, originally designed to test composite hull plating." Daniel blinked. "Wait, you're using a spaceship hull scanner on me?" "Scaled down," Oscorp assured him. "But it is the only available tool with adequate depth modulation for your skeleton's properties." "Reassuring," Daniel muttered, and settled in. The machine hummed to life. Vibrational pulses passed harmlessly through his body, creating ghostly 3D images on the display above. The scan began with his femurs. "Your lower limb structures are dense," Oscorp narrated aloud. "Reinforced trabecular matrix, high load-bearing potential, estimated compressive strength, 170 megapascals." Daniel squinted. "Is that good?" The technician, now wearing filtering lenses to view the display, answered. "It's higher than our ship's outer shielding per unit of thickness." Daniel let out a low whistle. "Guess I should be flattered." "Your bones," Oscorp continued, "combine hardness and elasticity. This hydroxyapatite compound acts as crystalline reinforcement, while collagen provides tensile flexibility. The balance prevents catastrophic fracture. Unless you hit us hard enough, Daniel said, then we still break. True. Ascor nodded. But under normal conditions, your bones absorb significant force. Most species on this vessel would suffer skeletal collapse under your Earth's gravity. Daniel turned his head. So we're gravity hardened? Precisely. A planet with stronger pull, forced structural adaptation. Your internal framework had to bear mass with greater efficiency. But this, it gestured to the display, goes beyond efficiency. It is overbuilt, evolutionary overcompensation, redundant resilience. Maybe nature didn't trust us to stay out of trouble. Azakor's limbs paused mid-adjustment. Unlikely, evolution is indifferent, but perhaps your environment was exceptionally hostile. Volcanoes, predators, accidents, Daniel said. Yeah, we earned our scars. The technician stepped forward with a soft whir. Your cranial vault is also reinforced. You have a secondary structure. What is this? Daniel tilted his head. Sinuses? Number this. It adjusted the scan, focusing on the base of his skull. You have a layer of spongy bone between two layers of compact bone. A shock absorber? Diploe, Daniel replied. Part of the skull structure. Protects the brain from minor impacts. Ascor's eyes dilated slightly. Multiple protective layers for a central organ and a floating fluid bath. Remarkable. A natural crumple zone. We still get concussions, Daniel reminded them. It's not perfect. Number but resilient. The technician displayed comparative scans from other species aboard. Hollow frameworks, cartilage matrices, biological shock absorption via fluid dispersal. Nothing matched the rigidity and redundancy of the human skeleton. You are walking fortresses, it whispered, yet appear so vulnerable. Daniel sat up slowly. Because we are. One well-placed hit, we're done. A puncture here, he pointed to his neck. And it's lights out. But we adapt. We endure. Why not external armor? Ascor asked. If your world is hostile, why soft skin? Mobility, Daniel said. Speed, cooling, communication. External armor limits all that. So evolution went with internal support and external flexibility. It's a compromise. The technician processed that. You are the biological equivalent of a blade without a sheath. Daniel smiled. Yeah. And when we break, we fix ourselves. They turned back to the data. Tensile strength maps, microfracture thresholds, regrowth simulations based on human metabolic rates. Fracture remodeling, Ascor said. Your bones don't just heal, they reinforce, adapt to stress. Wolff's Law, Daniel said. Bones get denser where stress is applied. Athletes have thicker bones in their dominant limbs. Stress response remodeling. That implies a continual feedback loop. Activity drives growth. Inactivity causes decay. Use it or lose it, Daniel agreed. The physician leaned closer to the console. This regenerative capability, it is not cellular regeneration in the classic sense. Your osteoblasts rebuild. Osteoclasts clear debris. A managed repair process. Yeah, that's why we immobilize breaks. Set them. Let the cells do the work. And this process requires? Daniel ticked off fingers. Time, nutrition, rest, sometimes surgical intervention. A clean break heals in about 6 to 8 weeks. Compounds can take months. Older people heal slower. Ascor stared at him. You carry stone within flesh, and your body rebuilds it as needed. Within limits, Daniel said. We don't regenerate limbs or anything. Yet your skeletal system is modular, reconstructive, self-repairing. Even our bioengineered soldier class lacks this. The technician stepped away to whisper something to Ascor. The conversation was in their native tongue, but Daniel caught snippets from the lexicoder's passive filter. Combat viability, structural potential, unaugmented resilience. He sat straighter. You're not thinking of cloning us, are you? Cloning is restricted by interstellar law, Ascor said quickly. But your physiology warrants study, not replication, observation. Daniel raised a brow. You sure about that? Another message pinged on Ascor's console. It was from Central Medical Command on the Varellis. The word flagged appeared 3 times. Daniel noticed. Am I on some list now? Not a blacklist, Ascor said. A watch list. You are categorized as a biologically critical species. All further medical interactions must be filtered through human-specific protocols. Daniel nodded. Smart. Could have killed me yesterday. I apologize, Ascor said sincerely. Your biology defies conventional logic. We underestimated you. Story of our species. The technician returned with a clear data crystal and handed it to Ascor for the archive. Ascor plugged it in and began uploading a file labeled Human Musculoskeletal and Hematological Anomaly Report, Initial Findings. Daniel stood and rotated his shoulder. So what now? You are cleared for return to quarters, Ascor said. But I recommend a nutritional supplement for bone matrix recovery and minimal exertion until blood volume stabilizes. How long for full recovery? Daniel asked. Based on human standards? 72 hours for blood restoration, assuming proper hydration and iron intake. Daniel grinned. Back on my feet in 3 days. Your resilience is alarming, Ascor said, staring again at the scan. The technician added, and possibly contagious. Daniel laughed. One can hope. By the time Daniel returned for his final checkup, the medbay looked different. Not in layout or equipment, everything still shimmered sterile and otherworldly, but in atmosphere. The apprehension was gone, replaced with clinical curiosity. Aliens who once recoiled at the scent of his blood now leaned in for closer readings. Ascor was already prepping the biopanel interface when Daniel walked in. Your pallor has resolved, the physician said without greeting. Yeah, Daniel replied. 3 days of hydration, rest, and iron-heavy meals. I feel like myself again. You know, minus the minor trauma and existential species audit. Ascor ignored the sarcasm, sliding a slender diagnostic wand along Daniel's temple, neck, and thorax. Cardiovascular readings are stable. Hematocrit levels within acceptable human variance. Tissue regeneration at wound site is consistent with your stage of healing. Daniel glanced at the sealed cut on his arm. The foam dressing had dissolved, leaving pink, tender skin. Another week and it'll scar over, he said. You heal from dermal lacerations faster than most oxygen breathers, Ascor noted. Your skin is delicate but productive. Rapid epithelial proliferation. Helpful when you're prone to getting scratched up, Daniel said. Skin's our first line of defense, even if it's paper thin. The technician approached with a portable projection disc. It blinked twice, then displayed a rotating 3D model of a human body, skeleton highlighted, annotated with bright alien glyphs. This is the full report? Daniel asked. Ascor nodded. Your musculoskeletal system, circulatory composition, metabolic flexibilities, and trauma response are now documented. We have added multiple layers of cautionary notes for other med teams encountering your species. No more detox mishaps then? Not unless protocol is ignored. Your baseline iron levels alone would trigger emergency chelation in most non-human patients. Daniel winced. Still think about that. Close call. You're fortunate. We've since updated the diagnostic AI to request species confirmation before initiating any auto protocols. Daniel exhaled. Good. No one else on my team needs to be nearly scrubbed of blood. The technician interjected. Why do you survive at all? Daniel raised an eyebrow. Bit of a philosophical leap there. I mean it literally. You are fragile to the touch. Your vital organs are barely shielded, yet you contain volatile chemistry, high-pressure blood flow, and rigid internals. Your kind functions like an unstable construct. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Because we adapt, because we learn, because we break and rebuild better. Our survival's not because we're the strongest or fastest, it's because we never stop trying. Ascor's eyes blinked slowly. That stubborn resilience, it defines your biology. Daniel nodded. It defines our culture, too. You can knock us down, but odds are we'll stand back up. The technician shook its head. You are incompatible with baseline assumptions of survival logic. There are safer designs, more efficient paths. Daniel smiled faintly. And yet here we are. The disc changed displays again. This time it showed medical entries notes written in galactic standard. One stood out, flagged in red. Cautionary summary. Species 297H, human. Organism displays high variability in physiological thresholds, particularly for trace metals. Tolerance to circulatory iron levels significantly exceeds standard safety limits. Internal structural system includes rigid mineral composites, capable of self-repair. Do not initiate chelation or structural dissolution treatments. Confirm species before administering protocols. Biological recovery rates exceed average under appropriate nutritional and environmental conditions. Classification: resilient anomaly. Handle with caution and respect. Daniel chuckled. You know, for a guy who got a paper cut in space, that's quite the legacy. It is deserved, Ascor said. There was a moment of silence before the physician continued. You spoke previously of titanium implants, it said. That you place foreign materials inside yourself after injury. Yeah. Sometimes for life. Screws, plates, prosthetics. We've even got replacement hips and artificial heart valves. Whatever keeps us moving. Oscor nodded. In our species, internal augmentation triggers systemic immune collapse. The body rejects inorganic materials violently. I guess we had no choice but to evolve differently, Daniel said. Or maybe we just refused to accept our limitations. Oscor gestured to the scanner. You defy expected medical boundaries, not through superiority, but through flexibility. Exactly, Daniel said. That's our trick. We're not unbreakable. We're just good at not staying broken. The technician approached once more, this time offering Daniel a translucent disc, the kind used for personal medical records. This is yours, it said, in case you require care elsewhere. Daniel took it, turning it over in his hand. Thanks. Appreciate you not killing me. Gratitude is mutual, Ascor said. You have reminded us that vulnerability and durability are not opposites. They coexist, sometimes in strange ways. Daniel slid the disc into his jacket pocket. Guess I'll go be someone else's problem now. One moment, Oscor said, reaching for the console. Another entry was submitted, this one internal to the Interspecies Medical Network. Addendum: Earth origin human. Recommended reevaluation of Earth standard biological metrics. Organisms' capacity for structural repair and tolerance to inorganic supplementation suggests possible evolutionary pathway aligned with hostile environment adaptation. Internal mineralization is not a vulnerability, but a foundational trait. Recommend further study for integration of similar bioengineered models in non-human trauma response. Daniel read the notification as it went through. Planning to steal our tricks? Oscor turned back. Number. We do not fully understand them, and as you said, you're still figuring it out yourselves. Daniel grinned. We always are. The technician added something under its breath in its native tongue. The lexicoder hesitated, then translated, wrapped in weakness, framed in stone. Daniel smirked. That's poetry. The physician closed the file and extended a hand one of its gentler manipulators. Daniel shook it. You are discharged, Oscor said, but not forgotten. I'd hope not, Daniel replied. I bled all over your floors. As he stepped out of the medbay, the doors sliding closed behind him, Daniel felt lighter. Maybe because he was healed, or maybe because, for once, being the biological underdog had left an impression worth keeping. Somewhere deep in the ship's central archive, a final note blinked into existence. Human anatomy. Further study recommended. Possible weaponized evolution. Classification. Soft exterior. Core of stone. And with that, the ship returned to its silent drift, through the stars one mystery catalogued, many more to go.